Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing an Angels and Demons video today, and we're doing a demon. And as we're on these sins, we're going to be doing about the sin of envy, which is the Leviathan. And this sort of links into the Leviathan's piece I've already done amongst my creature profiles, so there's more information there to sort of mix with this one. But anyway, as usual, I'll give you a quote or a mention from one of my stories where I've used the character, then I'll give you the background information I have, and then I'll give you the character profile I've created that's used in my fictional universe. So, let's get into it. Dearest friend, I would not have approached you but for this wonderful plan I have in mind, and I know you're the only being who can put it into motion. After all, there are none who can stir up envy and the anger of unfairness within the minds of the youth, quite like the sins themselves. Quote from Ambitious Aim. Amongst the pantheon of the seven princes of hell, sometimes declared the seven deadly sins by different demonologists, exists a rather bizarre entity for the choice of envy. In most tellings, the Leviathan was a great monstrous sea being that was created by God in the earliest days of the world that constantly fought with the land-dwelling giant the Behemoth. In some versions, the destiny of the two beings is to be devoured by the worthy at the end of days, and often Leviathan is equated to a whale or a sea serpent. Some stories say two were created, one male and one female, and depending on which version is telling this, the other sea serpent is killed, so there can only be one of these indomitable beings left in existence. Now, like most demons in this time period, Leviathan is linked to chaos and the wildness of the world, and is likely taken from the story of a servant of the sea god that faced Baal Hadad, Lotan, and some believe it is from the older stories denoting and some believe it's actually from the older stories denoting Tiamat and Marduk. Certainly, like the female dragon, Leviathan is most often referred to in the feminine and is linked to the wild waters and untold chaos of the sea that only God can tame. But how does this make it a demon of envy? In all honesty, no one is really quite sure. Some denote that because Lotan was a servant of the sea god and not a created beast in the waters, thus Leviathan was a being that could be encouraged to be against the creator, and therefore is capable of moral decisions unlike other beasts. The concept of them being demonic is noted only in that they are supposed to be a representative of chaos. But how does this link to envy? Some say that Leviathan had two forms, the male being Leviathan and the female being Lilith. Thus, Lilith's envy at Eve being created to replace her becomes tangled up in some of the lore around Leviathan. Some look to the Book of Revelations, the mentions of the many-headed dragon that comes out of the water and alongside a beast from the land is often referred back to Leviathan and Behemoth. All the beasts mentioned in the Revelations have been taken by demonology to represent demons of some form or aspect, and yet the actual source of Leviathan as the demon of envy is not too dissimilar from the connections between Mammon and the Greek god. That is to say, it is Thomas Aquinas who describes Leviathan as the demon of envy, first in punishing the corresponding sinners. Later on, others use this to classify Leviathan as envy, and some even link Leviathan to the visual of the hell mouth, where the damned disappear into at the Last Judgment. However, once more, we're not exactly sure how this associates to the sin of envy. Envy also includes jealousy. It is a sin for which desire to have what another has becomes more than just want, but the use of them having that to justify abuse towards the being. It is probably the easiest sin to fall into and directly goes against the commandment regarding coveting. With Leviathan, some books on demonology state that the being rolls and coils into knots over that which it cannot have, and that its desire to hold dominion over the land drives it to its aggression with the Behemoth. The aggression towards the Behemoth seems to be the only thing I could find to correspond with any thought to do with envy, and though Leviathan is a term often thrown towards giant sea monsters, there doesn't seem to be anything else to fit. Certainly, with Milton's Paradise Lost, he references Leviathan as a demonic being, but however, he instead describes them more as having the tricks, the notions of some sea monsters in other stories. He's described as letting himself rest up to the surface so he can be mistaken by sailors for land, not to mention to swim in the Norway foam, which links it more with the concept of a kraken with this behaviour, although some posit that instead it links to the world serpent. But for me, I tried to try and decipher what makes Leviathan such an envious creature, and so I tried to envision them as an angel like the other deadly sins that deserve their judgment. I hope you find what I've done with them interesting. Okay, so name Leviathan, position demon of envy, story featured in Ambitious Aim, role aids Mammon in sowing mischief, gender female, description a great coiling serpent with scales impenetrable and a body a mix of black, green, and grey, with the head like with a head like a dragon filled with the fires of hell and teeth that curl in to stop any escaping. They can also appear sometimes as a well-dressed queen visiting from a foreign shore that boasts about everything. Realm Hell. Abilities can see into the desires of others and teaches them to see what others can do and try to do better. Once it was benign and urged thoughts that meant they could grow stronger and develop more for something better, like urging the young animal to leave the past as new. But instead, Leviathan uses those thoughts to poison and encourage aggression and fury, to make people do horrible things to outdo others. It can also control deep waters and chaotic storms out at sea, as well as joining with Behemoth to make tidal waves develop. Master Lucifer. Personality: generally ambivalent and friendly as long as no one raises the stakes. Complains or compares, or if you flatter them, they are very good to you. But once their jealousy is roused, they can become the most hideous and wicked being going. Whenever they have a chance to interfere, because someone is given a chance to redeem or have a better chance that they felt they never got, Leviathan can become deadly and hideous. They are resentful towards others, including other demons, and that includes beings like their friend Memel. Relations: Behemoth, their oldest friend and companion in heaven. The pair would compete regularly, but both turned against God, and now they are constantly at war with with each other over ridiculous things regarding the deep sea and the land within hell and on the end of the earth. Mammon, the sin of avarice and a great friend. The pair have a friendship wherein they compete, and though Mammon always wins, they have a close bond with Leviathan, and thus they enjoy every time Lucifer deals with the situation. They do comfort him and trust him. Mahazael, a child of Leviathan and Behemoth from just after they fell, when they were comforting one another. The kid was born with powers over the earth, but instead of letting Behemoth anywhere near him, Leviathan insisted they were keeping their son, and so spoilt them and raised them to be as Prince of Hell. Mahazael almost decided to stay behind to be pampered, but when their sister was following Baal, he couldn't help but follow, and Leviathan was very pleased with it. Paimon. Paimon, one of the Dukes of Hell, although once an angel with little renown. Paimon is a being of pomp and circumstance and would often arrive in the same ridiculous showy manner as Leviathan. They get along reasonably well, and many view them as a paired off couple. But though they have a relationship, it is only for show and to look better than anyone else. Both of them like others to envy what they have, so they don't mind being together to show off. Berith, the daughter of Leviathan and Paimon, she is very obedient and a devoted follower of Baal, and Leviathan is very possessive of their daughter, making sure everyone is envious that they have created something so beautiful. But under Mammon's instruction, Leviathan developed Berith to be Baal's second in command, and so that perhaps Berith could steal whatever Baal had, and they would have something to point to, so Lucifer wouldn't be too mean to them. Baal, Leviathan helps stoke Baal's mind towards wanting to get out of hell, agreeing with Mammon that they could create something no one else could by their influences upon him, but Leviathan pays a heavy price when they try to control Baal and are pierced through by the power Baal has stolen. Thankfully, Lucifer saves them. Lucifer. Leviathan believes, envies, and adores Lucifer as all do. Therefore, Lucifer let them see that they could go further and change the minds of man, let alone control them through their words. And Leviathan has always been appreciated by Lucifer and grateful of it. History. Within heaven, created amongst the angels of water, Leviathan was once the one to stir the deep water and lift the waves, to send the waves the thought of trying harder or doing something different. Their wishes and thoughts are those that make animals prance more elaborately and show off. They are joyful that they can encourage such beings, but always boastful. Often they were warned not to be so boastful by the other angels, and to teach them a lesson when they claimed their words alone could cause the other animals to make fire. The Almighty changed their shape into that of a great serpent, forcing them to stay in their lesser job of moving the turbulent waters instead. Leviathan is resentful of this, and when they are released, they bitterly hold on to their thoughts and complain to Behemoth, who too is who too is boastful and being told off. As they grumbled, Belial told them to come and see Lucifer, and so they did, and they were startled. Lucifer's words made so much sense to them. In fact, Lucifer made it clear that Leviathan did have the power they believed, and it could be put to a greater use with Lucifer. Leviathan took part in the rebellion and was thrown down into hell, only able to reach out to earth within the waters as a monstrous serpent to try and swallow all they could. The strength and power it took to do so was always tremendous, and Leviathan would often fall back into sleep. But on one incident she almost swallowed the great whale that had taken Jonah into its being, almost swallowing a prophet of the Lord in spite, but thankfully was just too weak to reach it in time. Leviathan, though, produced many monstrous spawn within hell to cause trouble with their eldest, taking the role of a prince of hell to help command and battle the younger demons. Leviathan is always grateful for this, but when they produce the young daughter, not long after Baal is born, they agree with Mammon that the pair should come together in a friendly challenge to see whose would reign supreme if they escaped hell, but also that Baal could never truly be greater than the Almighty or Lucifer. However, things don't go as planned when Leviathan's children turn on her to serve Baal, and when they rise up out of the ocean in fury to try and destroy him. Baal is able to make himself a god on earth by using the stolen power of Remiel to smite Leviathan down into the depths. Lucifer resurrects them, but Leviathan and Mammon are both fearful of what will happen with Berith and Baal's new power. Final comments. As you can see, I'm working elements of the Baal mythos into my Baal story, and Leviathan is a useful part in the earlier part of the story. Leviathan is an odd being, though, and I would suggest looking at my Leviathan creature profile video too to get a little more understanding. Thank you for listening.